What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the My Parents Office podcast. I am your host, Andrew Diaz. Today we've got episode 116. We're going to be covering big weekend in college football. Championship weekend, the playoff is set. Look at some Heisman odds, prepare for the Army-Navy game, and some stuff outside of college football as well. But college football is the main focal point of today's episode. Before I really get into all of that, make sure you check us out on social media. Give us a follow. TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter is at My Parents Office. Facebook page, My Parents Office Podcast. Substack is articles from the office. And I don't think we have anything else from there. So yeah, I'm going to kind of jump right into championship weekend. It was an absolute, it was, there were games that came down to the wire. Really, one game that came down to the wire that was exciting with playoff implications. The rest were pretty cut and dry when it was all said and done. And the game that came down to the wire was an early game. It was Baylor versus Oklahoma State, and this one had, I think, the biggest impact, other than the Georgia-Alabama game, on any game when it came to playoff implications. Because if Baylor loses, Oklahoma State would pretty much be in. I think maybe over Cincinnati if they don't beat Houston by a lot. If Bama loses, they're definitely in. If Michigan loses, they're definitely in. So they're knocking at the door. And then if Baylor wins, then Notre Dame gets in. So there was a lot going. Well, Notre Dame pretty much takes their spot and moves into there. So there was a lot riding on this game, and it came down to the wire. AT&T Stadium for the Big 12 championship, the biggest stage of the granddaddy of them all for the Big 12. You get two teams that they kind of broke the trend of normal Big 12 teams, where you're thinking a lot about, it's going to just be offensive explosion. You're going to see a 45-42 game. These were two very good defenses going at it. I think the biggest game changer for Baylor on defense was Seka Ika, the 350-pound defensive tackle that was moving quick. He's bench pressing Oklahoma State guards into the backfield, like going against good players like Josh Sills from Oklahoma State, pretty much just throwing him in the backfield, and made it very difficult for Oklahoma State to run the football. And I think that's part of the reason they lost. Oklahoma State ended up losing 21-16. And I think the biggest thing was how good Baylor's defense played in the second half. Because actually, I think was it maybe the end of the third or beginning of the fourth? But in the second half, Oklahoma State had 7 plays inside the 2-yard line and came away with 3 points. And 4 of those plays were the 4 final plays of the game, Oklahoma State's 4 final plays on offense. So you really just saw the linebackers and D-line for Baylor getting good jumps off the ball, dominating the Oklahoma State offensive line, pushing them in the backfield and making life very difficult. And the final play of the game, the Oklahoma State running back strung it outside, dives to the pylon, gets tackled at the 1. Baylor wins the game. It was crazy because you've got a safety running pretty much on the back hip of the Oklahoma State running back. And when he lays out, he gets pushed right out and misses the pylon. Doesn't really even come close to the pylon. So that was definitely an awesome game to watch. And, Baylor, as a Notre Dame fan, I was nervous because you're hoping all these things fall into place where Notre Dame gets into the playoff. Granted, it didn't happen, but you're pretty much watching Baylor start dominating, really right off the rip. They put up 21 points in the first half and don't put up any points after that. And then it's like, well, Oklahoma State's going to come back. Mike Gundy is just going to outcoach Baylor, and it really didn't happen, which was pretty crazy to see. So as a Notre Dame fan, I'm even more pumped now because I'm like, all the pieces are going to fall into place now. Bama's going to lose. Michigan's going to lose. It's all going to happen. So then another game that was so the 4:00 games were Cincy versus Houston. Not too much intrigue, I think, in the Cincy-Houston game. a lot of it was just Cincy. If they lost, it would have been a big deal because they would have gotten thrown down to like 9th in the rankings. Then does Notre Dame get in because Notre Dame lost to Cincy? It would have been a whole debacle. Cincy ends up winning by 15. Houston's not an impressive team, I don't think. So for them to be the second best team in the AAC, it's just a bummer. But Cincinnati makes it. They're the first group of 5 team to make the college football playoff in the history of the college football playoff. So that's definitely a really cool thing that happened. And the other 4:00 game was Bama versus Georgia. You had a game that I bet Georgia minus 6.5. I thought that was free money. I really thought Bama's D was going to come out and just absolutely swallow Bryce Young, shut down Josh Michie. And that didn't happen. That something like that did not happen. And this was the most points that any team put up on Georgia this year by almost 25. They put up 41 points, beat them 41-24. It was back and forth for a little bit in the first half, and then Bama scored before the half. They scored after the half, and they just kept pulling away. So then that bumped Georgia back from 1 to 3. Bama goes from 3 to 1. Then the late game was really the last game that had any implications on the playoff, and it was Michigan versus Iowa, and Michigan came out and just trounced Iowa 42-3. Just absolute ass kicking for the Hawkeyes. Just got absolutely demolished. So yeah, that was pretty much how championship weekend went. And then so the rankings came out. Last Power 5 game was ACC championship game. Pitt beat Wake Forest. Kenny Pickett did what Kenny Pickett does and absolutely balled out. The Panthers beat the Demon Deacons 45-21. A game, it was the 15th and 16th ranked team in the nation. So not a lot really rode on that game, just an ACC championship, which is huge to see Pitt win it. But so that was pretty cool. Now you've got the college football playoff rankings. They get released. And it was about what you thought it would be. The 4 teams that you thought would make it made it. And when it came down to where these teams ranked, a lot of people are not happy about it because I don't think Michigan should have been the number 1 team, but a lot of people are arguing for it, and I can see that argument. I can mentally comprehend that argument that Michigan could be the number 1 team in the nation. I don't agree with it, but it's an argument that can be made. And so Bama jumps Michigan and goes to number 1. I just think it was because of how big they beat Georgia and the points that they put up on Georgia pushed them to number 1. And I definitely think that's a huge thing. Georgia goes back to 3. Michigan sticks at 2 and Cincy at 4. And a lot of people are pissed about it because they think the playoff committee didn't want an SEC rematch in the first round. They're kind of hoping for a Bama-Georgia national championship, which I think is going to happen. I think Georgia's defense is going to shut down a team like Michigan, and then Bama versus Cincy is going to be a bloodbath, like it would be if Baylor made it, Notre Dame made it, or Ole Miss made it. You kind of hope Cincy puts up a fight, but I really do not think that's going to happen. So you've got Michigan versus Georgia, Bama against Cincy for the college football playoffs, which is exciting. I've got the list of the other bowl games, the other New Year's 6 bowls somewhere on my phone. Let me just pull that up, kind of go over that. Where is it? I can't find it right now, but I know one of the big games, of course, as a Notre Dame fan, the game I care about, Notre Dame's playing in the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma State, which should be an exciting game. I think Notre Dame's defense is really, really good. Same type of D-line where it's guys that get off the ball fast, same type of linebackers that fly around like Baylor. So I'm curious to see if they'll be able to shut down Oklahoma State's running game the same way in which the Baylor Bears did. So I'm definitely excited for this game. A bowl game I'm really excited about, though, is the Barstool Bowl. I've got the hoodie on now. I'm going to be out in Arizona for Christmas this year. We're flying out on Christmas Eve. I'm trying to convince my parents to extend the trip just like 2 or 3 more days and go down to Tucson for the Barstool Bowl in Arizona to watch Central Michigan play Boise State. And it's on New Year's Eve, which is pretty cool. So that would definitely be an awesome thing to be in attendance for, to go to. So, I'm working at that. It's looking good, I think now. Maybe I'm not too sure. I could be completely off, but it's something I'm definitely excited about. Definitely something I want to do. So that's a game I'm going to keep my eye on, even if I'm not there. Now, with college football, I didn't do an episode last week. Brett hasn't put up. I don't even know. I'm taping this episode on Sunday night. I taped a Thanksgiving episode that he hasn't even put up yet. So, not thrilled about that. I'll be pretty honest. But so he's been taking a while on putting the episodes up. But so I did not do an episode last week when the whole coaching carousel debacle went down with Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame and with Lincoln Riley leaving. Some other small ones that occurred in that time frame. I think the only real one I can think of is one broke today, but Joe Moorhead is going from Oregon to Akron to be the head coach. He was the OC at Oregon. So this is a good move, probably career-wise for him. If he was at maybe if he stuck around at Oregon, he would have gotten promoted, because Mario Cristobal, it's looking very good that Cristobal is going to be going from Oregon to Miami, which is pretty wild. I'm just looking it up to see what the update on that is. It says they're closing in on him, and they're discussing with him. So I'm curious to see if he leaves, if Moorhead would have maybe gotten bumped up to head coach rather than taking the job at Akron. Definitely would have been interesting. And then another gig that's a lot of people are going after, and there's been a lot of rumors swirling around, is the Oklahoma job. Whether Brett Venables from Clemson gets the call to be the Sooners' new head coach would be very interesting. Because, when I see Venables, he's on the sideline. Like, you see him on the sideline, fired up, that fiery temper, and that's great for a DC. But how great would that be as a head coach of a team like Oklahoma? I don't know. It's something I'm definitely curious about, to see how he would pan out there. But who knows? He's kind of denied the rumors. Some of them said that it's a smokescreen rumor of Venables going to Oklahoma. But the reason Oklahoma needs a new head coach is because Lincoln Riley snaked the ever-living shit out of the Sooners, like terribly. Told, I guess, in meetings a couple of days before, told the Oklahoma players that Norman, Oklahoma could be the mecca for college football. Lies right to their face. Says he's not going to be the new head coach at LSU, which was true. He's going to be the new head coach at USC. That was the press conference after they lost to Oklahoma State. And then he takes the USC job, says that the first time he spoke to USC was the Sunday morning that he took the job, which I believe him. I believe he didn't speak to USC. I believe his agent was definitely working everything and was kind of the middleman for all of this. And Lincoln Riley obviously knew what was going on. And the deal he got is one I have never, in my life of watching college football, never have I seen a deal like this. $110 million. The USC bought both of his houses in Norman, Oklahoma for over $500,000, the asking price. So there's another $1 million. They buy him a $6 million home in Los Angeles, and they also give him and his family 24/7 access to the private jet that USC has. It's a ridiculous deal. I mean, it's tough. As a fan of college football, I can call him a snake for leaving because he did it in a snake fashion. But, I mean, that's a hell of a deal. And also to live in LA seems a lot better than living in Norman, Oklahoma. Now we'll get to a real snake. Lincoln Riley's a snake for leaving there. But the real snake asshole that I hate more than I hate Randy Edsall. And I fucking hate Randy Edsall. The guy that I hate more Van Edsel is Brian Kelly, because he is fake, about as fake as it gets. I get the alert one night when I'm doing homework that LSU is going to make a hard push for Kelly. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm like, it's bullshit. That's not going to happen. There's no way. They'll probably throw an offer at him. He'll stick around. Then the report comes out that it happened, and I'm furious about it. I'm off the walls, rip shit about it. And what hurts about the Brian Kelly, him leaving, is the whole nation when it came to college football bashed a guy like Brian Kelly every year because he could not win the big game. And Notre Dame fans always didn't even, not just tolerate, but praised him for getting Notre Dame to where they are. And then he leaves. He sends a text saying, "Oh yeah, pretty much. I know you guys probably saw it on social media. Sorry I wasn't able to let you guys know, but I'll have a 7 a.m. players meeting for you the next morning." Has the meeting. The meeting goes 4 minutes, just under 4 minutes. Pretty much says, I need a better opportunity for me and my family, all that, and kind of blamed his wife a little bit in press conferences, pretty much saying like, oh, it was just jokingly, oh, it was her idea, which it's not his wife's idea. His wife probably pushed for it, but you can't make that decision just off what your wife wants you to do and what she says. But so he gets down to LSU, talks to the team at LSU and says, I wanted to coach the best athletes with the best resources in the best conference. One of those things was correct. You are in the best conference in college football. You're definitely in the best conference in college football. There's no doubt about that. You're not coaching the best athletes, though. LSU, ever since that Natty team cleared out, terrible. Not a good team. And Notre Dame was better this year. Better athletes these past 2 years since LSU won the Natty. And better resources. It's Notre Dame. I mean, the resources are you're splitting hairs there if you think the resources are that. If you're talking about it being that much better, you're wrong. The resources are very similar. The only thing that really makes sense about it is the recruiting aspect, because recruiting for Notre Dame is a little bit tougher because of academic standards. Granted, you're not recruiting like you're recruiting for Stanford or for an Ivy League or for one of the military academies, but it's just so frustrating to see this, that and so back to the recruiting, he'll really have no leash when it comes to recruiting at LSU. If you kind of know what I'm saying, it's tough to articulate, but he's got no leash. He can pretty much recruit anybody he wants without having to look at really grades, community service time, or merit to get into the school. Which, that's a downfall of Notre Dame, but that's what makes Notre Dame Notre Dame. And I was really hoping Notre Dame would make the college football playoff just because it's in the Marcus Freeman era now. A lot of rumors some more rumors swirl up in the coaching carousel. I thought there were 3 options that were going to come in and coach at Notre Dame if it wasn't a guy already on staff. I thought the reasonable one was Luke Fickell from Cincinnati, pretty much just coming back and joining Marcus Freeman as the defensive. Freeman would have stayed at DC. Tommy Rees would have stayed at OC. And that's another thing about Kelly, though, that makes him a bigger asshole, is he tried to bring Tommy Rees and Marcus Freeman with him. And that would have caused all the recruits at Notre Dame to just leave that program high and dry. And you just saw a lot of guys transfer. But Freeman and Rees are loyal guys to the program. And they're loyal to Notre Dame and not loyal to Brian Kelly, which I respect the hell out of. But I thought Luke Fickell was going to be the guy. It kind of there were 3 guys I thought, like I said, and it kind of goes from reasonable to insane. I thought the reasonable one was going to be Luke Fickell. The mid-tier wouldn't have been surprised, but it would have been crazy. It would have been Urban Meyer. Especially for a guy like Meyer to coach a Florida team that had thugs and convicts on it, to coach an Ohio State team, which is a little bit in between, to coaching Notre Dame, would be wild. Absolute chaos. And then the third guy I thought was John Gruden. I don't know why there were a little bit of, I saw it on Twitter, like jokes about it, but it was kind of like jokes like, Gruden's going to coach, but like he may coach in Notre Dame. You never know. But I think Notre Dame made the right hire by promoting Marcus Freeman as the guy to be the next Notre Dame head coach. It's exciting. It really is. And I think the team's excited, and they feel betrayed by Kelly, which is only going to make their love for Freeman stronger and their commitment and dedication to a guy like Marcus Freeman stronger. And then another thing before I cap off Brian Kelly is his horrendous Southern accent that he used down at the LSU basketball game when he got introduced. His family, as he called it, it was god awful, like a mix of Forrest Gump and Bobby Boucher talking. The guy from Beverly, Massachusetts, like he was born in the Bayou, which was an absolute joke and a half. But I say good riddance, Brian Kelly, Marcus Freeman, Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees had a great speech. He's like, I know you saw it on Twitter, but I'm fucking staying. This is Notre Dame. This is what we do. We got guys here that I think we can win a national championship with, and I love it. It's exciting it sucks that Kelly left because, I am a little heartbroken about it. It's a tough thing because Kelly's a guy you stick with through thick and thin. When they got trounced by Alabama in the Natty, the years that they struggled and weren't great, in the years that they went undefeated and made the playoff and then got beat by like an Alabama again. It's you stick through it and it just gets a little more difficult. So I think the change is going to be nice though with Marcus Freeman. I'm very, very excited about this new era in South Bend. So this weekend we've got America's game, the game where the only people that lose, actually no one loses. America wins. There isn't a losing side. The troops win. America wins. Army Navy, one of I think the biggest tradition games in college football history. I think you'd put Ohio State, Michigan, Harvard, Yale, Alabama, Auburn, and Army Navy as like the Mount Rushmore of I think 4 big rivals. If you want to add a fifth, it would be the Red River. I'd say. It's I'm rooting for Army this year, and part of the reason is because of Feltman's Army West Point alum, so I'm gonna have to root with them. I'm gonna have to support that, but also I don't have a dog in the fight really, but Army is better this year than Navy, so I do want to root for the team that I think is going to win. Army's 8-3 this year. They just beat a pretty good Liberty team. And Navy's not great this year, which is a tough thing to see because whenever the service academies are pretty good, it's a fun thing to see. They're 3-8 this year. But I also think when you get into the Army Navy game, you get into really big rivalry games, you can throw the record out the window. And this is the one game especially that records don't matter. It doesn't matter if it's an 11-0 Army versus an 0-11 Navy or flip that. It's two teams that are going out that are going to run the triple option. It's going to be who's tougher, who's grittier, and just who wants it more. I had the privilege to go to the game. I think it was the 2018 one when I was a senior in high school. My dad and I went to it in Philly, and you get in the gates. You get in when the gates open because you want to see everything that's going on. They march the midshipmen, the cadets in from both schools. They have flyovers going on. Donald Trump did the coin toss. They had the exchanging of the students. It just the tradition with the game is ridiculous, and it takes two things that I love and support: America and college football. Just it all in one. So I'm super pumped because this is the only game that's on this weekend for FBS before we get into bowl season. So super, super excited for Army versus Navy this year. What else? Oh, excuse me. I have my notes up here. Oh, so moving a little bit off of college football, but sticking with, I mentioned Barstool before, the Barstool Arizona Bowl. Last Friday, my dad and I bought tickets in advance. to go see Pop Punk. So Pop Punk, it's Barstool Sports. They have a band where it's Roan, PFT from Pardon My Take, Robbie Fox, Frankie Borelli, and Nick Hamilton. They pretty much created a punk band as like a parody and as a joke to make fun of other bands, but it turned out they weren't bad. So they started doing shows, and they played at Toad's Place in New Haven, where I saw the Chris Webby Black Friday show my freshman year of college. So me and my dad went back there. That's who I saw the Chris Webby show with. This is who I'm going to see Pup Punk with now. So we drive down. You park right. We parked. We hit it on the money. We parked right, pretty much a 500-foot walk to Toads. Get in right away, and then we just post up right on the barrier. You're right there. Wayne Jetski opened for him, who works at Barstool as a producer, but he raps. It was pretty sick. And then Pup Punk came out, and my dad was definitely skeptical. I was a little skeptical because I didn't really know how the concert was going to go, but he was definitely skeptical about it because he had no idea what they were going to do. And then they came out and opened with Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. And like I looked over at him and he was fired up about it. It was sick. And they played like just awesome punk music, rock music, Semi Charmed Life, the anthem by Good Charlotte, Blink One. They played All the Small Things by Blink 182. Like I said, Seven Nation Army. The one that really Mr. Brightside was the two that really were the big ones. Was obviously Mr. Brightside, but not Seven Nation Army. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. When they played that, I thought it was gonna be a damn riot. It was insane. Guys were jumping up on the barrier, and it was like partially because like HQ Spider got up on the mic. He's from Connecticut. He was like, "Can we turn the fuck up for the rest of the night?" And so he stayed on stage when they were performing Smells Like Teen Spirit. And Frankie Borelli on the drums just is killing it. And just the energy was unreal. You look into like the middle of the pit, 'cause we were off to the left a little bit, and people are jumping up and down, pumping their fists. Spider jumps into the crowd, starts crowd surfing. Security's like, he needs to get down, he needs to get down. Doesn't get down. They're just, all the fans just pass him around in the crowd. It was electric. One of the coolest things was Frankie Borelli did a song. He played Wagon Wheel, but it was Wagon Wheel on the drums, and they had PFT and Robbie on the electric guitars and bass. So it was like a rock version of Wagon Wheel. That was pretty awesome. And me and my dad are up on the barrier, and there's like a little stump in front of there where people can sit if you're in that area. And Frankie Borelli's dad, Mr. Borelli, is like right in front of us recording. He's like turning around, recording the crowd. Spider would jump up on there sometimes and like pump, like try to get people going. It was an awesome experience. I got a picture with Barstool Large, and one with Coach Doug's, the national champ, wins everywhere he goes. So it was just an all-around great experience to be there. And like Pup Punk played some of their original stuff, and then they did Taylor Swift Love Story. They did Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo, which was it was funny, but like everybody knows those songs and they're hype songs. A couple got engaged at the show too during Love Story, and they brought the two women up on stage and pretty much like, this is the first Pup Punk proposal. This is awesome. This like, and they're like, why did you do that here? They're like, because like this is what we wanted to do. This is one of our favorite things to do is like be Barstool fans, and like we've been to Pup Punk shows before, so they got engaged there. It was just an all around cool experience, and one that I'm definitely happy we went to. I'm happy I'm happy that my dad had a good time at it too, because I was skeptical of how he would enjoy the show. So it was definitely awesome to see him have a good time. But I'm trying to think, classes for me outside of everything else, like just housekeeping stuff. Classes for me are coming up to an end, which I'm definitely excited about. Finals week is going to be next week, so gotta kind of batten down the hatches. I just got tongue tied there. Coming up, so I'm definitely getting ready for that and everything that comes with finals week. So Um, After finals week, we're done the 17th. The 18th, me and my parents are going to Maine. I'm going to see Spose, the Pete Ain't Christmas, with my dad at the Aura in Portland, which is going to be sick. It's Spose, who I saw this year already in Cambridge, which I'm excited about because he's going to be playing a lot of his new album stuff that I got to see in Cambridge. So it's Spose, the Humans, Jay Spin, I believe. I'm assuming Cam Groves will be there, possibly Christina Contagion. The Flowbots are going to be there, which is going to be sick. I'm actually really excited about that. And then he said special guests. I mean, Christina Contagion and Cam Groves haven't been announced yet, but they're in the area, so I'm assuming they'll be there. Spose brought Cam Groves to the Cambridge show, and they did a few songs there, which was pretty dope. Maybe some new people off of the album, like Ben's Been Dead or Crucify Aiden would be cool. Matt Gerard. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And like my dad and I saw Spose, he was at that Chris Webby Black Friday show performing. So I'm definitely pumped to be back there seeing him. I love Maine too, so it's just another excuse to get up there to my favorite city in America, Portland, Maine. So definitely pumped up for that. Other stuff. I've been every night when I do my homework, I've started watching movies now. Um, I've been on a big Jake Gyllenhaal kick lately with movies. I watched Nightcrawler and Demolition and Prisoners recently. Prisoners was out of the three, Prisoners was my favorite because Hugh Jackman was great in it, and it was a real eerie, suspenseful movie that really your skin kind of crawled at some points. You wanted to look away and skip, but like you just didn't because it just you couldn't. I don't want to give any spoilers, but just great movie. Jake Gyllenhaal plays a detective that pretty much solves every case that he's a part of. In this one case where Hugh Jackman's daughter and a friend's daughter both get kidnapped, they're trying to figure it out. He's trying to figure it out. They think they know who did it because they see an RV in the street. Like I said, I don't want to give too much away. Go see the movie, but it's an entertaining, I think, 2.5 hours of film that I couldn't look away from. Not too much homework was done that night is what I'm trying to say. Then I watched Demolition, which was a lot better than I thought. It was kind of like a romantic comedy drama. Jake Gyllenhaal's wife dies in a car accident on their way to work. He gets out without a scratch, and he kind of deals with having to work with her father, who's played by why can't I think of the guy's name? He was in American Beauty, the dad in American Beauty. Man, I got to figure this out. Or not the dad, the Marine dad in American Beauty. I'm gonna be pissed. Chris Cooper. Chris Cooper played Jake Gyllenhaal's wife's father. And then he at the hospital when they find out she passes away, he goes to a vending machine, tries to get something out of it. It doesn't end up working, so he writes letters to the vending machine company and pretty much connects with a woman who's played by Naomi Watts, and it goes from there. And he really realizes that a lot of his life, when he thinks it's perfect, isn't. And that just breaking shit and taking stuff apart is what he finds joy in. So that's where I'm assuming the name Demolition for the movie comes from. And then the other one I watched was Nightcrawler, which I was long overdue. And not shout out, but I'm calling like Leo out, friend of the program, Leo Allgaier out, because he told me when I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch Nightcrawler tonight. He was like, oh, not a fan. The movie kind of sucked. I mean, dude was out of his mind. The movie was awesome because Jake Gyllenhaal kind of plays the same character that he plays in Zodiac. Kind of, while in Zodiac he was a little nerdier because he was a comic, but he was also closed off to the world, kind of quieter. That's how he was in Nightcrawler, but instead he's a thief, but he's interested in something that pretty much just consumes his whole life. In Zodiac, finding out who the Zodiac killer is consumes his whole life. in Nightcrawler, becoming a Nightcrawler consumes his entire being, where he wants to just break stories, and he'll do, well, not break stories, but get the videotape of the stories for the news to break, and he'll do literally anything for it. He'll put his partner in the line of fire, um, take out other night crawlers. It's wild, wild movie. Definitely one I recommend watching. I recommend watching all three of those. And then I had watched the other night at 11:30. So before that, me and my friends decided we were gonna have one of our classic movie nights. The last time we did, we watched Taxi Driver, which I don't understand why it's called a classic. Maybe just because it's Scorsese and De Niro. The movie kind of blows. Like I don't get the hype around Taxi Driver being this great movie, because there's really, I understand it's not an action film, but there's not much that goes on in it other than De Niro playing with a pistol and driving around in a taxi. There's about 15 minutes of very interesting, uh, I think, dialogue and action that goes on. So kind of disappointed in that. So we watched Fight Club, and it was actually my first time seeing Fight Club, and I was not disappointed. I won't lie, I didn't know. I would listen to a podcast that pretty much spoiled Fight Club for me. That uh, Brad Pitt and Ed Norton are the same person. Um, so I kind of knew what was going on, but you still get shocked by it when it happens, when you figure it out. And it's a wild movie. Ed Norton, and it's great. The only other Ed Norton movie I think I saw up to that point was American History X, which is a really good one. I think that's actually gonna be one we'll be watching for our friends movie night before we finish up the semester. But yeah, that movie was awesome. It was intense, a lot of action, and like even like I said, when I knew what was going to happen, I was still baffled and shocked by some of the stuff that occurred. So 10 out of 10 movie. Um, I thought it started off a little bit slow, but when they actually get into fighting and stuff, it's really a blast. Or just a good time. A good time. I think it's a 2-hour movie. Just an absolute great movie. Um, got my spot or not my Spotify Wrapped. I think I'm gonna start doing a new series. It'll be every few days. It's gonna be reviewing my 2021 Apple Music replay, which all of you probably find very interesting and intriguing. So let me pull. I'm doing pretty much counting on all 100 of my songs on there. I already did 100 to 91, and by the time this comes out, 90 to 81 will most likely be out by that time. But I'll pull up my like artists and my albums for you guys to kind of go over. Just gotta do my Face ID here to get my replay. I've got to screenshot all the songs, but nothing else from it. Just waiting on that to pull up. So my top artist this year was Spose. No surprise there. 134 hours listened. Number 2 was Kanye West with 11. Cam Groves 9 hours. MC Lars 7. Jack Harlow 7. OAR 7. J.R. Specs 6. Mike Squires 5. Schaefer the Dark Lord 5. Kid Cudi 5. J Spin 5. Bruce Springsteen 4. Watsky 4. Blink-182 4 hours. And then my top albums, number 1 was Get Rich or Die Ryan. Number 2, We All Got Lost by Spose. 3, Preposterously Dank by Spose. 4, Peter Sparker by Spose. 5, Good Luck With Your Life by Spose. 6, Why Am I So Happy by Spose. 7, Non-Perishable by Spose. 8, Good Luck With More Life by Spose. 9, The Audacity by Spose. And 10, Going Home by Spose. So he kind of dominated the year for me, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 5 of my top 10 songs as well, including the number 1 song. So I already started doing this series. I started writing my second part of the countdown, and it's Spose dominated pretty much. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 30 of his songs on the countdown. So yeah, other than that, not too much else from me. Like I said, I'm just ready to be done with school. I'm doing online business consulting over the winter, which is something I'm kind of looking forward to doing as an experiential learning through the school. So I'll be doing that and be home and hopefully down in New Jersey a little bit with Brett to work on some college wrestling content. I mean, I'm hoping he can come back up to the Northeast or to New England, I should say, and cover some Division 3 and club teams. I think there's going to be a lot of content with that, especially around us. There's a lot of opportunities for it, for us to be doing that. So definitely something I'm looking forward to doing. But other than that, thank you guys for listening to the My Parents Office podcast.